Today, we're going to dive into a piece of wisdom that's all about power, control, and really the essence of how we live our lives. It's just one single sentence, but it forces us to ask a really fundamental question. Who's actually in charge here?
So, our journey starts with a bit of a puzzle, an incomplete thought just kind of hanging in the air. He who depends on another's will. Right away you start to picture someone who's basically handed the keys to their life over to somebody else, just waiting for them to decide which way to turn.
And that, of course, leads to the big question. If someone lives like that, completely relying on what someone else wants, on their choices, what happens to them? What's their fate? Where does that road actually lead?
And here it is. Here's the other shoe dropping, the missing piece to that puzzle. Can never govern his own destiny. The warning is complete now, and wow, its message is just crystal clear.
So let's just look at it all together. He who depends on another's will can never govern his own destiny. This is the core idea we're going to unpack today. We're going to look at the trap of depending on others, and then we'll get into what it really means and what it takes to govern your own destiny.
So first up, let's talk about those chains of dependence. I mean, what does it actually mean to give up your will?
You see, dependence in this context is so much more than just asking for help. It's when your sense of direction, your permission to act, even your feeling of self-worth gets outsourced to someone else. And that leads to this huge outcome, a loss of personal agency. That is the real cost. It's the difference between being the pilot of your own ship and just being a passenger along for the ride.
And this loss of agency, it has real, tangible costs. Your autonomy just evaporates. You become incredibly vulnerable, right? Like a boat getting tossed around by the changing winds of someone else's moods and whims. Your own personal growth just grinds to a halt. Because let's be real, true growth comes from the friction of making your own choices and learning from your own mistakes. And ultimately, you can't chart your own course. You're just following a map that someone else drew.
But let's be super clear about something here. This isn't a call to just isolate yourself from everyone. There is a world of difference between dependence and interdependence. See, dependence is a one-way street. It's you surrendering control, and it comes from a position of weakness. Interdependence, on the other hand, that's a two-way street. That's a partnership built from a position of mutual strength, where two capable people choose to work together. Big difference.
Okay, so if dependence is the problem, what's the solution? It's self-governance. This is all about taking the helm and actually steering your own life.
At its heart, self-governance is the power to direct your own life. It's built on a foundation of conscious choices, deliberate actions, and taking personal responsibility. It's that huge shift from letting things happen to you to making things happen. It is the exact opposite of waiting around for permission.
So how do we actually do this? Well, it pretty much rests on three pillars. First, you need clarity of will. You have to know what your principles are and where you're trying to go. Second, decisive action. You have to actually take steps that line up with that will. And third, radical accountability. You have to own your choices and whatever comes from them, the good and the bad. It's such a powerful sequence. Know your path, walk your path, and own your path.
And this is the ultimate goal. When you practice self-governance, you stop being just a character in someone else's story. You get to pick up the pen. You decide the plot twists, you define your own character arc, and you write the ending. It is your story to tell.
All right, so we've looked at dependence, we've looked at self-governance, so now the focus has to turn inward. It really all boils down to one fundamental question. Whose hand is on the wheel of your life?
The logic here is as simple as a seesaw. It's a classic inverse relationship. The more weight you put on the will of other people, the less power you have to govern your own destiny. But as you start to shift that weight back, as you start to reclaim your own will, your command over your own destiny starts to rise. It's that simple.
And so, this is the question we want to leave you with. Really think about your life, your job, your relationships, the little decisions you make every day. Whose will is actually writing your destiny? Is it yours? Or have you maybe handed the pen to someone else? The answer to that question, well, it changes everything.